Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
If you take a look at the headline of this week's National Interest, you might have a question to ask me immediately. So, a headline is something like politics, police, judiciary, and the law of habeas corpus. So, your first question will be, oh, is this a typing mistake? So, let me tell you, it is not. Second, you may then say it sounds a little bit rude. So, I'm not referring to anything you eat or anybody eats, a meat that somebody may detest or somebody may relish. No. But it does sound a little crude or rude, which it isn't, but it's a cheap shot. It's a cheap shot and a deliberate one. Why? Because we have a parallel to lean on to. Now ask any crime reporter worth her IPC, and they will tell you that police officers routinely use an expression, barking crime. So what is barking crime? Barking crime is when you curb crime, when the bosses ask you, "Arey, crime curb karo," figures in your area are looking very bad in your police station or in your taluka or in your district or in your state, then one way of curbing crime is by not registering crime as much as possible. Register as little as possible because it's onerous to investigate, prosecute. Before that, if you don't register at all, then you will show great numbers and your ACRs, annual confidential reports, will all come with outstanding, all over them. You'll be happy, your boss will be happy, chief minister will be happy, the world will be happy, except the citizen who's suffering under your watch. Now, if you look at the role of the judiciary in a democratic constitutional republic, the main role, the first role of the judiciary is to protect your and my liberty, our fundamental rights. And this has nothing to do with how important a person is, how powerful a person is, whether a person is 22 or 82, it doesn't matter. Also, it doesn't matter how many think the person is guilty, because that is not the way our justice system works or should work. So the judicial system stands for the last man standing or the last woman standing. If you look at evidence lately, then you will think that this is only being observed in the breach. That's the reason I say the instrument that a citizen has available to her when a person is seeking her liberty is habeas corpus. This is the main job of the judiciary. But if they fail on that by either ducking decisions, as we say in the case of many such petitions from Kashmir or many other places, or by ruling completely in a manner which is contrary to the law and definitely to the spirit of the law, then it is ducking that issue by just reversing the equation. That's the reason we are rude enough to say habeas corpus, not habeas corpus. So a cheap shot, all right, but I have evidence to tell you why I say so. Because what happens in a good legal constitutional system? I might think sometimes it's difficult for me to also figure out which institution has declined more. Is it the police or is it the judiciary? Because both are sworn to protect the same constitution. It's not as if the police in India has a different constitution or the judiciary has a different constitution depending on the social standing or the age or the views of the person. It is the same constitution. Now you find that increasingly the police no longer applies its mind to a case. When they get orders to arrest, they arrest. And then the principle is the old principle that the legendary Beria, Stalin's enforcer, had famously or allegedly or anecdotally had told Stalin. I think somebody had to be arrested and Stalin said, but what charge will you put against him? And Beria said, you name the man, I will give you the charge. And that is how our police has been working. What is worse is that when these people are brought to magistrates, so you might think, oh, I've been arrested, I know I'm innocent, I know I'm not seditious. No, I did not try to commit a murder. If the police can't have anything more than the flimsiest of evidence, any half-literate person can see through it. So why wouldn't my magistrate? But then you go to a magistrate, and the magistrate's first response is, while you might expect that magistrate's response will be based on the immortal line that legendary Supreme Court Judge V.R. Krishna Iyer spoke and wrote in 1977, that rule is bail, exception is jail. You then discover that the magistrate actually goes with the police, refuses bail to you, gives the police remand, as if to say, the rule is jail, exception is bail. For that you go higher up, bail is beyond my pay grade. So that is begun to happen now quite consistently in India, and that's a very disturbing trend. Now, you need facts, I will give you facts. And we will not give you a billion facts. Let's start with three. Three cases. There's Munawar Farooqui, the comedian. I'm just listing them chronologically in terms of when they were arrested. So Munawar Farooqui, the comedian in Madhya Pradesh, with a bunch of his colleagues, were arrested for intending to tell jokes that they hadn't yet told. Now, in law, there is a concept called mens rea, which means when you commit a crime, then a judge has to be convinced that you had a motive to commit the crime. That's called mens rea. This is the first case I have found where people have been arrested for mens rea without having committed a crime. So this is not even a preventive detention. Nevertheless, they were arrested, and I will come to this case in a minute. Then there was the case of Nodeep Kaur. Nodeep Kaur was a labor activist. She was working in a factory. She's a Dalit from Punjab. The factory is not far from Singhu, where the agitating farmers are sitting. Nevertheless, she was arrested. There was a protest at her factory. There was some violence. She was arrested. Among the charges laid at her door was the charge of attempt to murder. That is section 307 IPC. That is a tough section. In fact, it's very difficult. It's frightfully difficult to get bail if you've been charged for attempt to murder, because which judge wants to give bail to somebody who's facing a charge of attempt to murder? Because there is flight risk, there is all kinds of risks with a person like that. Now, the third case that we talk about is Disha Ravi, which is the most familiar case because of the dramatic circumstances in which she was arrested in Bengaluru, flown into Delhi the same day, produced before a magistrate, sent to 5 days of police remand, and then 3 days of judicial remand, and that is when finally she got her bail with that beautifully worded order by Judge Dharmendra Rana. Now, see, in each case, at the first 2 or 3 levels, depending on what case it was, I would say from 1 to 3 levels, bail was denied. The principle that bail is the rule and jail an exception was followed in complete breach. In each case, the first magistrate went along with the police. It gave them police remand, then judicial remand. In each case, higher courts gave the person a reprieve on one ground or the other. In case of Disha Ravi, the judge said that he found the evidence scant and sketchy, that she was indulging in seditious activity, and he said that case was not made out at all. Now the question is, when the magistrate read the same evidence while giving her remand for 5 days, giving police remand of her custody for 5 days, didn't that magistrate read that same evidence? What changes between one level of judges and the other level? Because that evidence is so sketchy that even someone semi-literate would have said that you cannot detain a person in a police dungeon, in a police station, in a police lockup for 5 days just for this. And it doesn't really matter what we think of a person's views, because if you ask me, I would say that an environmentalist or environmentalists opposing these farm laws, which I think are good, and supporting the farming practices in Punjab and Haryana, which are destroying their ecology, water tables, etc., is nuts. But that is an argument of ideas. That doesn't mean somebody you disagree with goes to jail. Similarly, if you see Nodeep Kaur's case, Nodeep Kaur was given bail by the Punjab and Haryana High Court, which did not sit on the merits of her case. They said that that right to protest is a democratic right, but there is a thin line that circumscribes it between what is lawful and what is unlawful, and you have to be careful not to cross it. And if you have done so, that will come out in the trial stage when evidence is produced. So they have not pronounced her innocent. But what they have said is that there is no evidence on record to suggest that this is a case of attempt to murder. That is the big difference. Because rioting, etc., you will get bail much more easily compared to an attempt to murder. Now, if the High Court can see that there is no case made out for attempt to murder, how come the lower court she went to in the district, I think two of them, they didn't see any of that? That again means it's the same psychology that this is above my pay grade. It's safest thing is to deny bail, send the person to custody. If you want bail, go higher up, make your pangalu, let me go along with police and the political power. Now that is not a good thing, and you've seen this in all three cases. In Munaffar Farooqi's case, at 3 levels, he was denied bail. After 3 attempts failed, he came to Supreme Court. In fact, even when he went to Madhya Pradesh High Court, the judge sent him back to jail after reading out a long sermon to him. Supreme Court gave him bail. Then, as a knock-on effect, 2 of the other people arrested with him got bail because on principles of parity. 2 others were denied bail even on principles of parity because they had an earlier application seeking a full bail, not an interim bail. That mercifully was corrected, and in fact this Friday, when I am recording it, they've also got bail. But think about it. They've spent almost 2 months. In fact, each one of these has spent a lot of time in jail, police custody, and then jail without deserving to do so. Now, if you think all this sounds bad, I bring you to yet another case that's going on. That is the case of Aparna Purohit. What has she done now? She headed the crew that produced the Saif Ali Khan starrer teleserial Tandav. Now, many people have taken umbrage first at the title of the teleserial Tandav because it's associated with Lord Shiva, who I believe is our most forgiving God and also our God with the finest, the best sense of humor. But people have filed these cases and they say Lord Shiva has been insulted in this. Now, she went to Allahabad High Court asking for anticipatory bail. These are bailable offences also, but nobody wants to be arrested by somebody on a Friday evening. Remember, even Disha Ravi was arrested close to the weekend. It's an old police tactics. Anybody who's covered crime, as I have, knows this tactics. Usually arrest somebody who you really don't like on a Thursday afternoon when Friday is a public holiday, and then find some excuse or the other. Then one day some magistrate goes on leave. So that way keep the person locked up for 2-3 days at least. So she came for anticipatory bail. Now the judge in a high court, no less, has denied her bail, which is one thing, but look at the reasoning that the judge has used to deny her bail. And I can do no better than read the judge's line exactly. The judge's line is, actions of the applicant, quote, actions of the applicant being against fundamental rights of a majority of citizens, her fundamental right of life and liberty cannot be protected by the grant of anticipatory bail. Hello? What's going on? We thought that we are a constitutional democratic republic where the rights of an individual are supreme, where the rights of an individual cannot be either overruled or overridden or extinguished by the rights of the majority. In a democracy, you need numbers to get you political power. That's fine, that's fair. But if numbers also determine who gets justice and what kind of justice, then we are not a democracy. then we are a mob. And once we are a mob, then we can choose who we want to lynch and when. So this logic completely beats me, because this goes against all that we've been taught about any constitutional democratic republic, most of all our own republic. The last man standing, the last woman standing. At this rate, at any point of time, a bunch of people will stand up, and what will you do? You will hold a referendum for every decision in a court. And why do we need institutions like the courts? You need institutions in democracies not to uphold all the time the logic of numbers. Then you don't need institutions. In fact, you need institutions in democracies to protect the citizen. In this case, someone like Aparna Purohit or anybody, Disha Ravi, tomorrow it can be me, you, or your neighbor, your friend, your family, anybody. The institutions are needed in democracies to protect the individual or the minorities from majoritarian excess. And if the courts then saying that I cannot give you justice because the majority is feeling hurt by what you have said, then I think we are going in the direction of mob justice. And it is something that should worry us and something that we should respectfully debate. Now, it's possible that Aparna Purohit will get bail, anticipatory bail, in the Supreme Court, which will both be just and a travesty. It will be justice because Supreme Court has given bail in similar cases to, say, Arnab Goswami, Amish Devgun. I don't see how they will say no to her. But it will be a travesty because not every citizen can reach the Supreme Court. Not everybody has the wherewithal. Not everybody has the money. In any case, most Indian citizens, by the time they reach the Supreme Court, they would have been pauperized because it's so expensive. Then, by the time you get to Supreme Court, you would have already spent several weeks in custody or jail already. So your freedom has been denied to you. And having to spend time in jail with your liberty denied, it is not easy. And I will tell you from my own personal experience. There was a case very similar to the kind that now Aparna Purohit faces, the 295, etc., hurting the religious feelings of a group. And it was a completely headline hunting case when I used to be the editor of Indian Express. It's a joke that somebody wrote about something that somebody took umbrage at. And a Bombay court summoned me in that case. And I was granted bail the same day because it was a bailable offense. But until I got my bail, somebody from the court was standing there holding on to my arm like this. So I won't run away. It is not a good feeling. So to be jailed is a very bad feeling. It damages people. See how what it has done to Munawar Farooqi. And for that, I am sharing a story that Bismi Taskin wrote for the print today. She spoke with Munawar Farooqi. So a person, by the time they get to Supreme Court for justice or even High Court for justice, has spent far too much time denied their liberty in jail or police custody. That is uncalled for, because this is in complete violation of a standard that the Supreme Court itself had set in 2014 in what is called as the Arnesh Kumar case. Arnesh Kumar case is about a man who was charged under 498 AIPC, that is dowry related crimes, etc. And he thought he was going to be arrested. So he went to seek anticipatory bail at lower courts, at the High Court. He was denied it. So he came to Supreme Court. Supreme Court gave him relief, but also laid down a test of about 5 conditions which have to be satisfied before a person can be arrested for an offense which carries a jail sentence of less than 7 years. I have this data thanks to Apurva Mandhani, my colleague, who covers law for us, and she dug it out for me. So in that case, the court said that these conditions should be: 1, the police officer has to satisfy himself or herself that the person, if not arrested, will commit another crime, or 2, tamper with evidence, or 3, threaten or intimidate witnesses. 4, that all this has to be stated in a memo, a form has to be filled, and that has to be produced before a magistrate. and magistrate then has to satisfy himself or herself to decide whether it's a case of bail or jail. Now you can see obviously none of this has been done. It's been completely ignored in a cavalier fashion, both by police acting at the behest of politicians and the lower judiciary. Now also, even if the Supreme Court again underlines this and insists on its 7 years jail sentence test, I don't think this combination, this nexus of politics, police, and the system is going to bother, because they've got access to the sedition law, which carries a life sentence. Hardly anybody ever gets convicted, but people can be denied their liberty and bail for a long time based on that. So these are things that we have to worry about. So I am joining a debate with our higher judiciary that this is the time to look within and see what's gone wrong with our quote-unquote system.